is for you. Here we go, brownies. Here we go. Here we go, brownies. Here we go. Yeah, this for my dogs from the east to the west side. You rockin' brown and orange with me, baby. Let's ride. Represent the land, let them know. Tell them, here we go, brownies. Here we go. Yeah, here we go.
Join the Dog Pound on the road this season with True Fan Travel, an official fan experience partner of the Cleveland Browns. Travel to stadiums across the country with other Browns fans and experience the games like never before. This trip includes everything: a private charter flight, hotel, an all-inclusive tailgate, game tickets, boat party, transportation, and more. Cheer on the Browns in New Orleans and party with Cleveland Browns legend Kevin Mack. Visit TrueFanTravel.com today and reserve your ultimate Browns travel package.
Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of the Here We Go Brownies podcast. I'm Allie Heisong, coming at you live from Pensacola, Florida. Joined with me, as always, out in beautiful Cleveland, Ohio, we've got Dustin. Dustin, how you living?
That's right. I'm not in Boise, Idaho, but I'm celebrating my Boise State Broncos for their first time ever being ranked in the college football playoffs at number 12 against the Ohio State University. Right at this point, that would be where the matchup would be today. So that would be kind of crazy. But Allie, I'm enjoying a bye week. Not stressed, living my best life. By the way, it was 70 yesterday. I don't know what's happening with global warming in Cleveland, Ohio, but I tell you what, it's like everywhere else is cold, but not here. So it's been great. I know are you still south? Are you still in Pensacola?
Yeah. We're leaving this weekend to head north to Ohio.
Is there a reason you're heading north to Ohio?
I think I might be getting married. That might be what's going on.
That's a big deal. That's a big
deal.
deal.
So right off the top here, I'll let you guys know this is my last show for a couple of weeks. I'm taking some time off just to, go get married and enjoy that. So I'm taking a break.
Just get married. I'm just gonna it's like that.
Gonna go get married.
Just gonna get married. Yes, guys. We'll have some special guests hosts over the next couple of weeks. So obviously we know no one can handle and do what Allie does, but she gets to enjoy a wonderful couple of weeks off and spend some great time with her new husband, the doctor. Dave.
Yeah. Really excited. And it's nice to, it kind of comes at a good time, right? Unplanned that, we're getting married after the bye week. It gives us this show, Dustin, to really kind of go a little bit more in depth with this team. I know every week we're really just kind of ranting and raving about the team's performance the week or, that Sunday prior, and looking ahead to the next Sunday, which we really haven't been that optimistic about. So we have some content to bring to you guys today.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about, obviously, the trade. We're going to go a little bit in depth there.
Yep.
We're going to talk about the Andrew Berry press conference today. It's very interesting. There's some things that, we need to discuss. That's what this show's about. It's by the fans for the fans. We're going to get real with you. And of course, bring David on for the medical minute. But before we get into it, Dustin, why don't you tell our listeners just a little bit about our friends over at City Barbecue?
Yeah, City Barbecue, guys. They now have their holiday-themed food coming out. Great food over there. 6 Northeast Ohio locations. So if you're looking to get some great barbecue, actually, I had it today, I had City Barbecue today. It was amazing. But get some City Barbecue. Check out their 6 Northeast locations. They got their party packs. If you're looking to do weddings or catering, they have all those wonderful things as well. Or if you just want to go in and, take some takeout for the family or just go on the weekend, always amazing food. I had their turkey today, which was interesting. Never done turkey at the City Barbecue, and I felt like, it's a little precursor to maybe a holiday. As like having a holiday turkey, and I was getting a little sleepy, so I was like, that's what that turkey does. It gives you that tryptamine stuff in it that makes you sleepy.
It does. That always gets me. And also want to tell you about our friends over at Stadium Mustard, which is also really good on turkey. You give that a shot. If you don't have Stadium Mustard in your kitchen this season, you're doing it wrong. The iconic brand, the iconic taste, beloved from ballparks to backyards and everywhere in between. Stadium Mustard is a smooth brown mustard, rich in both taste and tradition. And by the way, it's loved by millions, so be sure to head on over to stadiummustard.com to shop now. Dustin, let's go ahead and start with the Zadarius Smith trade. I think we all saw this coming, right? It was kind of leaked.
It was like the worst kept secret in the world.
Yeah, it was happening. We all knew this was going to happen. Look, here's my philosophy on it. I think that Detroit is getting a good player in Zadarius Smith, right? We know that about
And,
him. He
and
was
filling a big need and filling a big need.
filling a need. They need Zadarius Smith probably more than the Browns do right now. Let's be honest. But I think I can't I can't look at this and be like, well, yeah, we got some trade assets and be excited about it. Because if you would have said to me at the start of the season, hey, you're going to start selling players for draft capital, I would have said, oh, that's crazy. Like, we're trying to make a run for the Super Bowl. So it's really hard for me to get excited about this trade and look at what we got in return, which, by the way, is what is it, a fifth round pick or excuse me,
A
a
fifth next year and a sixth.
yes, a fifth this year and a sixth in 2026, but we also gave up a seventh round pick. So
Which
a little bit of a pick swap
yeah,
there. But
yeah.
my point being is, like, I just can't, no part of me is excited about it because we shouldn't have been selling players. Like, the team shouldn't have been to this point where they're getting rid of players. And it's just hard to be like, wow, yeah, this was great. It was mutually beneficial. And going back to the Amari Cooper trade, same thing. Like, it just sucks that this is where we're at.
Yeah, a couple things. I look at this trade. Again, the elephant in the room, the Browns have to give or figure out a way to pay $77 million over the next 2 years. That is a fact. And I'm not sure, but I think he was signed to 20 million, 13 million, right? Something a year was his contract. I believe it was 2 years at 13 million apiece. Anyway, Smith is a great player. He brings pressure. He was a beautiful asset on the other side of Myles Garrett.
Yeah.
Because he was a perfect fit in a lot of ways for Myles Garrett, even better than Clowney, based on production and what he could do at that position.
I agree with that.
Now, you are fortunate enough that you're in a Detroit Lions / Browns household, so you get to still enjoy Smith on your Sundays. But the truth be, I think the Browns are looking now, if they are not going to be moving forward with Watson at quarterback, you have to start taking little chunks of 10 million and 12 million and until you can say, okay, if we're going to start a rookie quarterback next year and put crazy as this may sound, a guy on the bench and say, you're just not playing and we're trying to work out a trade for you, whatever that may look like, right? You've got to start chunking away at that big piece of money and then bring in some young guys or developmental guys in this position. And I think that's what we're doing because now we have multiple draft picks, but we have an extra third now for Amari. We have this fifth, we have this sixth. And one thing, if Andrew Berry does keep his job, I mean, we all know that's still a to be determined, but if he does, what Berry is very good at, if he has tons of picks, he's very good at manipulating and going and getting people that he wants to fill needs on a team. So I feel like that's a little bit of what this is going on. It's not a total reboot, but it's more like a I don't know how to even describe it.
I understand. I am with you. I'm
Yeah,
with you 100%. Like, you have to do this given the state of the Browns, right? You have to. This is kind of required. However, my point is, it just sucks that that's where we're at.
Right, sure. Yeah.
That we are saying potential reboot. We are saying fire sale in some ways. Now, it wasn't on the trade deadline. We only traded 2 players this season, but that was the conversation of who's next. Are they receiving calls on David Njoku? Are they receiving calls on Myles Garrett? Key pieces for what this team is and should have been, this season. So it's just hard to wrap my head around the idea of any trade being excited when the Browns are just selling assets to receive draft capital, because that's just not where we should have been. And it's just like, this dark cloud of just, this season sucks. It has sucked. Now, I know that there's so many different reasons why, but my point being is I can't get excited about a trade right now because it's not like it's really benefiting us. The Browns didn't get better by doing this year.
Right, but the team has a lot of soul searching to do, right? I mean, we don't know who's going to be behind center game 1 preseason next year. We don't know who that is. Clearly, we know Winston isn't the long-term answer. He's just not going to be consistent enough. Does he have the right attitude as a guy on our team? And does he have the right spirit as a player? Absolutely. But is he a permanent, answer? Absolutely not. And Do I think DTR is? That's pretty incomplete. I don't know. But I don't think he's also going to be the game manager or better that this organization really needs to look to, right?
Mhm.
And I don't think the Browns honestly can go out and trade for another quarterback, like, a
It's
Cousins type of
difficult.
guy. I just think based on the contract of Watson, they're kind of stuck kind of where they're at. And I think they really, if they are in that top 5, 6, 7, a couple things just to back up on one of the things you said. All my sources was telling me Njoku and Miles Garrett absolutely not will going nowhere.
Right.
They're,
Right.
right. They're embedded in this community. They are, for crying out loud, he owns 10% of the Cavs, and he does, Miles doesn't want to go anywhere, wants to retire a Brown. Yeah, but if somebody calls and offers you 3 first-round draft picks, well, hell, you still
I
got to
mean,
take
yeah,
that.
you're gonna take
I
the
mean,
call.
that's a crazy amount of picks for one singular player, right? Like, he's great, but 3 first-round draft picks is a lot of capital, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's a ton of capital. So, yeah, do they have to kind of reboot here and kind of figure out who they are? Absolutely. And I think they're going to have to, Al, you brought up a really good point. This team isn't long in the tooth, but they're not young anymore. I think you're going to have more of a hybrid with this team going into next year, where you're going to have to rely on more younger guys to kind of fill in those gaps. Because if you are, again, attached to this contract, you're not going to be able to go out and sign a $20 million or $20 million a year type of player over the next 2 years. You're going to have to build it with some youth here. And I think they're going to have to get very creative. But I just still can't get around what they're going to do with Deshaun Watson, because
So,
I know how this fan base feels, and
yeah.
it's a tough pill to swallow right now. Like, it's tough.
I think that opens the conversation to we could go in so many different directions with that right now. Yeah, they may be collecting draft capital. And you mentioned Andrew Berry is good at manipulating the cap. I mean, we'll give him credit there. We'll talk about Andrew Berry here in just a little bit. But yeah, we can receive all of these draft picks, but has Andrew Berry actually shown that he is a top tier drafter?
Right.
I kind of don't think so. I mean, I think it's pretty split 50-50, but maybe kind of leaning towards no. He can hit on certain things, but like has yet to draft a really good receiver. Now, we see the ceiling with Cedric Tillman. We see it. Jedrick Wills, it was a huge miss. It was a huge miss. I mean, I'm not a draft evaluator, but like I was all in on Jed. I thought he was the most pro ready, and then it was just a miss. So you're going to have misses, but we could go back and look at a lot of the drafts with Andrew Berry, and yeah, it's Greg being another one that there's been some misses. I'm not saying Greg is all out a bad player, like at all, but a little bit inconsistent this year for a first round corner. I think that
Yeah.
that's a conversation that we could have that opens the door. Like, okay, cool, we are getting draft capital, but what's that actually do for us right here, right now? Like, not a whole lot.
Yeah. And what's interesting is you're right. Andrew Berry's missed on some of those picks. And I think I remember the quote from Randy Moss. He thought Tillman was the best wide receiver in the draft, period. Like, I think he even went out on Twitter and said Tillman's by far the best guy in this draft. Now, my question is, what's that going to look like? Because what I do know about Andrew Berry, he's really good at collecting draft capital, right? He's really good at making trades for this team. As much as we hated for Amari to go, I mean, we got high production out of him for 2 years. We only had to give up a 5th-round draft pick for him. And then we turn around and turn that 5th round into a 3rd rounder. So if you look at the full body of work, we got high production for the most part out of Amari Cooper for the time that he was with the Browns. And then we turned around and actually went up 2 more rounds when we got rid of him because of a team that was very much in need of a number 1 type receiver. So Andrew's been very good at that, but you're right. He's been hit or miss on some of these 3rd to 5th round picks where you kind of, we know this. That's where the nucleus of your football team is kind of built on those 3rd and 5th round
Well,
picks.
a step further. The past 3 years, those were our first round picks, essentially. The
Right.
Browns didn't hold
You
a
really,
first,
you
or
really hit on
yes,
those.
you really have to hit on those. The first 2 years of that Deshaun Watson trade, you didn't even have a second round pick. So you're looking at this, and third through 7, and even undrafted free agents, as we have seen, have played a role for this team. But the ability to draft not only starters but depth players, it's been inconsistent. I have a question, and obviously I think this is kind of the Andrew Berry conversation today. Like, that's what this pod is going to be. One, because trades, and 2, he just gave his press conference today. But let's just say his mid-season press conference. But let's just say that Andrew Berry, Kevin Stefanski retain their jobs. Now, that's a separate conversation. We're not going there, but let's just say they are here next year and the Browns are going to draft a quarterback in the first round. Do you trust this regime to get it right?
Well, I will say this. This regime, that being Andrew Berry, has never been put in a position to draft the future quarterback of the Cleveland Browns. I mean, DTR clearly was drafted, but I don't think he was drafted with the intention of being the guy, right? So I don't know. I think that's a little bit of an incomplete body of work because I'd have to go back and look at Andrew Body's resume. If he's been on was he part of remind me the quarterback in Philadelphia?
Jalen Hurts?
Was he a part of that? Was he a part of acquiring?
No. Actually, I don't know. When did he get drafted? I think Andrew would have been in Cleveland by then. Stand by. I'm not up to Eagles speed right now, but
because I mean, we can say what we want about Jalen Hurts, but he's very capable. He's a very serviceable quarterback, and he has a future still, in obviously Philadelphia. But I'm just curious if Jalen was under the regime when Andrew was there in that front office.
Jalen Hurts was drafted in 2020, and that is also when Andrew Berry took over. No, he was not.
So he was on the way out. Okay, got it. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of an incomplete answer, I guess, from me.
Look, and that's why I'm asking it, because we don't have the body of work, and that I'm just asking you personally, like your gut. Do you trust? Because we can see here in the comments, a lot of people are saying like, no, I have no faith. Jason says I have no faith in them drafting the right quarterback. But what do you think?
And I'm going to push back on that a little bit, because at the end of the day, when this was all said and done, a lot of teams were chomping at the bit to try to get a trade with Deshaun Watson.
Yes.
And I think there was a lot of Browns fans that have watched this podcast that were all in on drafting Deshaun Watson based on, hey, we finally got our guy that's going to take us to the promised land, right? Mm-hmm. And they kind of threw Baker out with Baker with the, out. He's gone, And there was, and again, kind of a 50-50 split with the fans, right? 50 wanted Baker to stay. 50 said time for him to go. He's not shown us enough. So I guess, and I'm going to push back. I do trust this front office in the fact that I think they can also get themselves out of their mess too, I guess, in a lot of ways. Because if they are going to keep this front office intact, Andrew Berry, all those things, they all bought in. They all thought this was a good idea. And we've all said at some point, you've got to have a coming to Jesus type of press conference, not like the one that Andrew Berry had today, but you have to say, you know what? We took a chance. We thought we got it right. And unfortunately, we got it wrong. And because of that, we drafted a quarterback in the 2025 NFL draft, and we're going to develop him to be our starter. That would do a lot of cleansing and say
accountability,
and say, look, because I think the fans would even say, well, they admitted their mistake. They said they screwed up, and now we got to kind of fix this problem. But we haven't heard that from the front office yet.
No.
It's been a lot of Deshaun Watson's our guy, gives us our best chance to play. And then I know you're going to bring up some of what was brought up in Andrew Berry's availability today. We're not getting that answer, because I will tell you, a lot of fans are going to freak out if he's under center game 1 next year. I mean, it's going to be like they're going to be coming with pitchforks and
it's going to be ugly. It's going to be ugly, unlike anything we've seen.
Right. I mean, you thought that game was ugly when he went down and the boos and the cheers and everything that happened. I mean, that was almost like the Browns had fans were like, they were releasing the frustration, like, oh, I mean, we're actually going to see somebody else at quarterback. Like, you know what I mean? Like, thank God, right? And so it was very weird. I mean, I've never been a part of a football game where there's this people booing and cheering and all this weird crap going on in the sense of a football game. It's very odd and kind of eerily weird. And just the way, I mean, yeah, it's some pissed off. I mean, it was weird. But I just think you're going to have to figure this out, because it's $140 million, and that's a lot of money and a big pill to swallow. And clearly, and I do want to say, I want to preface it with this: the Browns obviously are clearly trying to find a way what to do with that $140 million. Where I want to just preface, and I don't want to go too long into this. If the Browns were not, I think they're going to try a way to figure out to get rid of the contractual money, because if they weren't, I think they would have blown it up over this trade deadline. I think they would have blown it up. All these assets would have been gone. But the fact that they kept a lot of key guys that have salaries, they're connected to multi-year deals here, tells me the Browns are going to try to figure out a way to get this contract figured out and do something with it. Or I think they would have blown it up, and we would have seen a Denzel Ward type of trade, Greg Newsome type of trade. I think you would have seen those kind of a Juan Thornhill, some of these guys that have some pretty good sized contracts. I think you would have seen that at the trade deadline if the Browns were not trying to figure out a way to, you know what I'm saying? Because to me, it's like they got to figure it out. Like, that's the bigger piece of this.
I mean, I agree with that. I think just owning it. And you don't have to get behind the microphone and just completely dog your players. Of course, nobody's asking Andrew Berry to do that, but a little bit of accountability, I think, would resonate so well with the fans. I mean, that's all we're really asking for.
Right.
And not even to get on and say, hey, the Deshaun Watson situation didn't work out, but just to say something along the lines of, we're still evaluating all options. Our options are open. We'll see even. But to basically kind of say, I'm not going to comment on that, and it's still possible that Deshaun Watson's the quarterback going forward. Like, that's tough, because that indicates that they may not have any plan to move off of him, which that opens up an entirely different can of worms. So I think just a little bit of accountability, and like I said, you don't have to dog any of your players. That's not what anybody's asking for, but just today Andrew Berry said a whole lot of nothing. And we'll talk about that here after the medical moment, but essentially that's what it was. Let's go ahead and do this. I do want to talk some injuries. I know we got to talk about JOK, go through the injury report. Thankfully, we are going into a bye week where guys can get healthy. So let's go ahead and do that, and then we'll get into the Andrew Berry stuff. Let's bring on Dr. David Ellery. This interview is brought to you by our friends over at Lorello Vineyards.
Here we go, Brownies. Here we go. Woof, woof.
Hello, welcome to Lorello Vineyards. Larry and Kim Lorello. We have a beautiful Here We Go Brownies wine that we would like to offer to you this season as we did last season. We have several other award-winning wines, lovely entertainment and events coming this summer. So come and see us, wine a bit, you'll feel better.
Yeah, we're looking forward to seeing you at the Muni lot this fall. Go Browns.
All right, bringing him on, Dr. David Ellery. David,
bring him on.
How's it going? Bring him on. What's happening?
Oh, sorry, I got the dogs excited.
Oh yeah, that'll do
not
it.
Not a lot, as you guys already discussed. In 10 very short days, I'm sure we're gonna share a last name.
Uh-huh.
That's right. And I'm excited. Actually, I'm excited to come to the wedding. It's going to be like the most stress-free for me party, have fun, and just watch it all unfold. Because I'm like, I don't have to plan anything. I just got to get in my car with Ray. By the way, shout out to Ray. I don't know if you saw this, Allie, but Ray bought something very significant yesterday. He literally bought a huge the former Browns cargo truck. It's like 20 feet long and everything, to do his traveling museum for all of his Browns memorabilia. So,
wow,
yeah, you'll have to
that's
look
awesome.
at that. He found it at a Ford dealership here. So it was it's got autogram, everybody on the side, but it's going to be his traveling museum of all of his artifacts. So he's excited. He goes, should I drive it down there to the, I was like, well, you can if you want.
That's crazy.
I'm awesome. Like, it's a V10. It's not going to do well in gas on the way to Columbus. It's going to be like 6 miles of the gallon maybe, but yeah.
Wow. No, I did not see that. That's really cool. Good for Ray. David, let's get into it. Where do you want to start?
Not a whole lot to talk about. I know, with them being on a bye this week, there isn't like a practice injury report today. Typically they don't do that, I guess, before the bye week, but we'll at least start with JOK. as we know, he injured his neck in the Baltimore game, and we thought he would just be out for the Chargers game and then be able to heal over the bye week and come back for the Saints game. But unfortunately, they put him on the IR prior to the Chargers game, which we saw. And so he's out for at least, the next 4 weeks. And I guess what that indicates to me is it's totally out of caution and to protect his neck. Like we said, he went to the hospital, got evaluated, I think stayed overnight. And so there's likely some ligamentous injury, probably some sort of sprain. And obviously, if there's any ligaments in the body that are probably the most important, it's the ones in the neck. It's the ones that are keeping that spine together, that protects the spinal cord, that sends to the entire body. And so I would say it's out of an abundance of precaution and also just to protect him. So he should make a full recovery. Hopefully there aren't any lingering effects. I haven't heard or seen anything to kind of speak towards that or any need for surgery, but as we know, sometimes these things are kept under lock and key pretty securely, and we don't know until maybe after the fact even. But as of now, it's at least just the 4-week IR, not a season-ending IR situation. So there's still hope that he'll return. I guess that would be in week 14. But it just kind of remains to be seen, and we'll kind of have to keep an eye out for that time that he gets activated.
David, I have a question along those lines, because with your field and your expertise, putting him on the 4-week IR. If this team is 6-2 and they're on a playoff run, right? And do they put JOK on that 4-week, based on the injury? Could you see it be week to week and they don't put him on that and he's a scratch this game, he's out, and it's more of a 2 or 3 week thing where he comes back? Or did the Browns say, you know what, we're done, right? We're not going anywhere this season, so why not just go put him on IR, give him that extra healing time? I'm just curious, because when you were talking that through, I'm like, I wonder if the Browns just said, just put him on IR, because at the end of the day, why even risk hurting them anymore and give him some extra time to heal? I just would be curious.
I think it's a good question. This is all purely speculation at this point because we don't know the nature of it. My instinct would be, though, for an injury such as this, I think the determination for IR was going to be made no matter what position the Browns were in. This isn't a sprained knee. This isn't a sprained ankle. This isn't a hip pointer. This is a neck injury that could result in devastating, life-altering consequences if not handled correctly, potentially. And so I think even if the Browns are on looking to surge here and take the lead in the division and get a high seed for the playoffs, I still would anticipate that if this was an injury that required him to be on the IR now, it would have at that time too. Certainly other things we can play through. You think of Patrick Mahomes playing through the Super Bowl a couple years ago with the high ankle sprain. And you think of other guys who, kind of push through and maybe don't go on the IR in those situations when the team needs them to win. This is not that, as far as I would be concerned. Again, we don't know the true extent of the injury, the full nature of it. But if it's a neck injury that requires him to be on the IR, I would expect that would be the case no matter what time of year or what position the team is in.
Fair.
Do you think that, let's just hypotheticals here, it was like an ankle or something, or even like just a minor wrist situation. Do you think that the team would consider sitting somebody just to get them to rest because it is kind of a somewhat of a lost season? Or do you think that they want these guys out there? What's your perspective on that?
I think that there's a couple different, things in play for those types of decisions. Certainly, the team has a vested interest in these players and their investment in them, and want to protect them, but also want to see them out there playing. But if there's a concern that this can prolong an injury, keep them tabled or sidelined for longer, there's probably some incentive to keeping them on the sideline. From a player's perspective, though, it can be totally different, and it totally depends on the player. We've seen in plenty of instances guys who are gamers and all they want to do is play. It doesn't matter what they're feeling, what they're doing, like they're going to get out there. I think, for example, someone like, I'm trying to think of just recent examples of guys who you cannot get off the field. And there's those guys, who they are. They have a motor. It doesn't stop. Mm-hmm. And no matter what injuries they have, they're out there because it's their lifeblood. It's what they're driven to do and what they're paid to do and what they're going to do. Whereas, there are other players who kind of take a little step back and protect themselves more, kind of, look at their body as more of a commodity where, while yes, they want to play and be out there, they also understand that there's a long-term game at play. And so I think it's probably a case by case basis in terms of making that decision.
Sure.
But I absolutely think, in a situation where you're already 2-6, 2-7, and it's not looking like you're going to have any chance of sniffing the playoffs, that I think you would probably more heavily consider sidelining these guys just to preserve them. They'll come back, they'll be healthy after they heal up after a couple of weeks, but to reduce the chance of a more long-term risk for injury to a wrist or a hamstring or an ankle, I totally think that would be a viable consideration for these organizations to preserve these players.
Yeah. Yeah. What else? Is anybody else? I know we don't really get an injury report, but got anything else in terms of injuries or anything to go over
Yeah.
for this team?
Yeah, so I mean, specifically for the Browns, I don't have a lot. There wasn't much else that came out of the Chargers game with injury-wise, at least that they've reported to this date. One thing I kind of wanted to just touch on, kind of more generally or broadly speaking about the NFL with the bye week, is kind of what role does the bye week play for a team's health when it comes to recovering and kind of getting ready for the week after. We all kind of think like, hey, it's a time to rest and recover. You got some injuries. It's another time for guys to get better. And I think, we have to look at it from kind of two lenses. So we have players who we know are on the IR or are week to week, day to day, and have these injuries that need more time to recover, soft tissue injuries, things like that. I think for those players, the bye is very helpful just because it's more time. At the end of the day, it's one less game that they have to miss. And so you can kind of look at the other way and say it's one more week they have to heal and recover and closer to being playing. And so for guys who have a little bit more midterm to long-term injuries, I think the bye can be very helpful from that sense. Now, when it comes to the actual guys who are playing week in and week out and just have bumps and bruises and, aren't, sidelined with serious injuries, there's some data that actually shows that the bye week can be more harmful than good. One of those things that they looked at, there was, a researcher, Hayden Baker, he's an orthopedic surgeon and NFL injury researcher at the University of Chicago, said that, not surprisingly, contact injuries were found to be the highest cause of injuries during football games. So getting hit, people landing on you, people rolling up on your ankle. And because these types of injuries can happen at any point in the game, it is possible that the relationship between fatigue and injury is not as evident. And so they went on to say, in other words, being well rested really won't do much to protect a player from another player falling on top of him. Having that extra week off doesn't prevent those in-game impacts, those in-game hits, those in-game from occurring. And so that is kind of one consideration. And the other is that another observation we've seen is that with musculoskeletal injuries, a long break between games, we see a higher rate in those injuries. Think hamstrings, ACLs, Achilles, after extended time off. And we've talked about this in the preseason in terms of preseason games and how we start to see injuries in the first couple of weeks of the season. And what it kind of goes to is that, in fewer words, speed kills, quote unquote, in the sense that we cannot reproduce game speed. It doesn't matter how hard we practice, how intensely we practice. There's no way to reproduce game speed. And so when people are, practicing weekly and have a game every 7 to 10 days, that tissue is constantly being stressed to that level. But then when you have 7, 10, 13, 15 days off, that tissue is not being stressed the way that normally it is week in and week out throughout the season. And that is where we can actually see an increase in injuries after time off and after a bye week because of the high intensity with the maximum acceleration, deceleration, and sprinting that players have in game. And so there's actually a little bit of contradictory evidence to say that bye weeks can be a little bit detrimental, and you can see an increased rate of injuries after them because these players, again, they try to make it intense. They try to have at least one intense practice session during that bye week to kind of replicate the game, but you just can't do it. There's no way to recreate what the body goes through during an NFL football game. And so, again, I think there's kind of two ways to look at it. The more midterm, the chronic injuries where guys just need more time to heal. Bye week is great for that. But for the week in and week out bumps and bruises, the bye week really doesn't make a lick of difference for these guys. It's kind of interesting.
It makes me think, because I've had multiple conversations with alumni for the Browns and the way training camps were back in the day to where they are now. And they almost say they aren't really even training camps, right? Like they aren't like the intense training camps they had when they played. I wonder if there is ever going to be any data, and maybe this is for a different episode, David, because of these more reduced training camps, reduced reps. To your point there with the muscle, right? Contracting, resting. They said they see more injuries now than ever, coming early in the season, right out of training camp. And they're like, this is crazy, the amount of high ankle sprains, all these things that we see now seem so prevalent in the National Football League. I'd be interesting to see if there's any correlation to the way training camps are modern day to 10, 15, 20 years ago, or was more impact, like you were saying, week to week, they were out there, more reps and all those things. It'd be interesting to see because they're like, this is crazy. We never saw this many injuries ever. And we'd go hit, smack, we're not being shy with each other. And they're like, and then we'd go out and play regular season. But it just seems like there's a lot of that. And it'd be interesting to see if there's any data out there correlating the way, training camps used to be and how they are now. Because again, the whole reason they did it was to, create less injury, right? And not so much contact. But to your point, I found that just very interesting that having these breaks of time can actually be a detriment to the muscle and the muscle memory of what it's used to doing. That's really interesting.
Yeah. I think there's so many factors at play. It would be really hard to get to the bottom of all that. But I think there's definitely some interesting things there that you bring up and could be investigated and looked at. Part of it may be that it's just the camp isn't as intense, but part of it is bigger, faster, stronger players like we've talked about. So the impacts that they're feeling, the speeds at which they're running, accelerating and decelerating are just levels that the human body hasn't been pushed to in decades past.
David, I will get you out of here on this one. I want to get your just unfiltered take here to the Zadarius Smith trade.
Oh, nice. I am from just an added weapon and depth standpoint. I think, especially with Hutch going down, they needed somebody else kind of opposite Josh Pascal to really help get to the quarterback and create more pressure. I think, you and I have talked about it, Allie, after it kind of occurred or leading up to the days of the trade where it doesn't solve the Lions problem, but I mean, there really is no way to solve that problem when you lose a player like Aiden Hutchinson. I mean, you see stats going around right now. He's still 4th in the league in sacks and pressures, and he hasn't played for 3 weeks. It's crazy. And so the only way to replace him is to get him back or get someone to his level, whether that's TJ Watt or Myles Garrett, and that just wasn't going to happen. And so it doesn't solve or fill the void, but it definitely helps kind of lessen, I think, the impact of losing him. And I think adding to that rotation on the defensive line is only beneficial because, I mean, he does get after the quarterback. He is good at, making some pressures, and he's got a good number of sacks on the season already. So it's not that he isn't a productive player. And so I think he fits the culture. I think he fits the team. And, he's used to at least playing in this type of environment and this type of, the Midwest football, even though the Lions play indoors. So it's really totally different.
Well, I mean, he came from the Vikings. He's very familiar with the division as well.
Yeah, exactly. So overall, I think it's a good move. It didn't cost much for the Lions either. So it hopefully helps propel them towards the second half of the season here to close it out with more victories.
What about for the Browns?
For the Browns on their side, I mean, I'm with you in the sense that there isn't a ton of draft stock from it. Like you said, you traded picks with a 6th and a 7th, and then you get a 5th rounder as well. We at least have believed in the past that Drew Berry that draft picks are valuable because he can make good decisions out of them or more moves. And so having, an additional pick on top of what you already had in this position is beneficial, certainly, especially for someone who can, make the most of it. But like you talked about earlier in the show, it's disappointing to have to be moving pieces when there's clearly no drive or direction to get any more success this season. I mean, this is for the long term. This is for draft stock in the future. And then when you hear comments from the press conference, which you guys have talked about or we'll talk about more in terms of what the future looks like, it's a little unsettling. It's a little confusing, confounding, and it's hard to kind of process how to really feel about it, but it's not a super warm, happy feeling, I'd say, as a
bleak. It's very bleak. And to get you out of here on this, just a quick hypothetical, just because that's what I like to do. And of course, this is our last show for the next couple of weeks. So in the future, when the Browns are really good at football, maybe that's a long time from now, but when the Browns are good at football and they play the Lions in the Super Bowl, who are you going to root for?
I'm rooting for the Browns, and I'm rooting for the Lions.
Okay,
that's the wrong answer.
So David, did you get to check? Speaking of answering that diplomatically, did you hear Joe Thomas's wedding advice to you from a couple weeks ago on the show?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, I think that was really good advice. Just take the L, move on. She's always going to be right, and
True.
just that's what you got to do.
Yeah, I heard that he even talked to you after the game, and kind of said something similar, like I gotta tell him, I gotta get to him. So I heard it,
Yeah.
and I heard it loud and clear, and I'm listening, Joe.
Yeah.
Take his advice, David. I would take it if I were you. But nonetheless, that is Dr. David Ullery. That is the medical moment brought to you by our friends over at Lorella Vineyards. All right, David. Well, thanks for joining us.
David, next time I see you, David, you'll be all fancy in your military gear, and you'll be getting ready to marry the bride.
That's right. Can't wait.
All right, get out of here. Go Browns.
Go Browns.
Go Browns.
Wait, just one more second. Like, who would you root for?
Cheering for the Browns.
That is Dr. David Ullery. That's the medical moment brought to you by our friends over at Lorella Vineyards. All right, I just need to hear him say it.
And then you
I
just
need to
come.
hear him say it. Yeah, I just needed to hear it.
This is going to be off topic, but I don't know what game you guys were playing the other night, but I was watching your Instagram reel and I was rolling laughing. That was hilarious, by the way.
It's a trend. It's a trend going around right now on social media. It's like suspect,
Yeah.
Well, you just kind of gently roast each other.
Yeah, like you're a suspect on this issue, right? Like that's
yeah. It's just like gentle roast, and we were howling doing that. We were absolutely crying laughing.
Yes,
and it was so much fun.
I definitely agreed with the last one that you both are degenerate gamblers. I definitely.
Yes, true. That's true. It's accurate. All right, we are going to get into the Andrew Berry press conference, but of course, we do have to go through some sponsor reads. So before we get into it, I do want to give a shout out to our friends over at Believeland Landscaping and also Pressure Washing. By the way, guys, they do snow removal. So as we approach a nasty Ohio winter, or hopefully it's not that bad, but in the event that it is, you can give them a call. They're going to transform your outdoor space into a breathtaking oasis. And Dust, I want to tell our listeners about Lady Caroline Cruise Ship and Greater Cleveland Aquarium.
Yeah, guys, Lady Caroline still doing a few more rounds out here on Lake Erie. And obviously, great time to go out and check all the wonderful things that they do. They cruise around the downtown Cleveland area here. They have the dinner, the lunch cruises. And, get ready to book those trips for next year and get your pass ready and do all those wonderful things. They're a great, both times I've been out on the ship, it's been a wonderful time. And then, of course, if you're down there, why not take in the Greater Cleveland Aquarium? Right down there, you can take your grandchildren, your kids, however you want to do that. They have the Shark Tank, all the wonderful things that the Greater Cleveland Aquarium has right down there next to the Lady Caroline. And look for giveaways, by the way, guys. We're giving away tickets all the time on our page for the Greater Cleveland Aquarium. And then we're going to have a big giveaway around the holiday from both of these guys, the Greater Cleveland Aquarium and Lady Caroline.
There you go. There you have it. And also want to tell you about our friends over at 5 Iron Golf. Guys, this is where golf is inclusive for everybody. Whether you're a seasoned vet or maybe you're just getting started, you can head on over and play a round of golf in their bays. Just work on your game. You can get some drinks, get some food, get it all. Go check out our friends over at 5 Iron Golf. Dustin.
The Brownie 40% off code. Please do that. Brownie 40% off every hourly rental over there. And ladies' night, 5 to 8, free. Like tonight, like right now, you could be golfing at 5 Iron Golf. It's free. 5 to 8 ladies.
I wish I was, actually. Yeah. I wish that's what I was doing right now.
But yeah, so check them out. They're right down here in downtown Cleveland, just right out the window here on Euclid.
Truthfully, I would rather be playing golf over at 5 Iron than having to talk about the Andrew Berry press conference because golf is way more fun than what we're about to do. But nonetheless, just to give it to you candidly, I think what Andrew Berry said in his press availability today was a lot of nothing. It was very vanilla. I think if you're going to have a press conference in the middle of the season, now I know it's required, but in the middle of a very up and down kind of season, mostly down season, you need to be ready to answer some things. You have to be ready, and I think that's what this team, this fan base, has been looking for is leadership and accountability, and to not get that even in the slightest today. Not even in the slightest, was insulting to the fan base. And like I said last week, how Nick Chubb in his editorial said that Andrew Berry came to him and said, well, we couldn't even consider getting rid of you because of what you mean to this city. But then in the same breath, not give any shred of an answer, it's kind of telling. I was pretty disappointed in what we got out of Andrew Barry today. Again, he said a lot about nothing. Of course, the hard questions were asked. I give credit to Cleveland media. They go in they go in swinging, and they asked him straight up about the Deshaun Watson experience. And like I said previously, like I don't expect Andrew Barry to even say anything negative about his players, but to keep things open-ended and give somewhat of a conversation, somewhat of an answer, to say, we're keeping our options open, whatever. But to openly say, like, I'm not going to comment on that when, like, you made this trade. You were the one that did this. And also, maybe, or it's possible that we'll see Deshaun Watson back under center. I think
Well, what's
it's
interesting?
just give a little more.
Yeah, it hasn't been made of this, and I don't know where this lies. But am I also correct that the NFL investigation is still open technically on Deshaun Watson, and that hasn't been closed, right? I believe that's correct, right? I mean, they haven't really said we've closed our investigation. There hasn't been much made of that. I know it was settled. The latest accusation that was made was settled out of court, and it was confidentiality. And, it was a sealed type of settlement. But I believe the league still was reviewing it. So, I mean, there's a myriad of things that are still at play here. I mean, I don't know. It'll be an interesting offseason. And to your point, it just here's the thing. I also understand where they have to be a little sensitive to a player they have a lot of money invested into, right?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Right, because I mean, you could say literally, you could slip up and say the wrong thing in that press conference, and then that could go down a whole other slippery slope of internal stuff that you have to deal with the player and stuff like that. And yes, James Frank, this is a Ashton Genty jersey.
Nice.
But yeah, so yeah, I just think it is interesting. But I don't know. I think I don't know if quite honestly, I don't know if they know what the hell they can do at this point. Like they're kind of stranglehold a little bit. And I think they're trying to find a solution out of it without, you know what I mean? Without trying to, what I'm saying? Like, yeah.
Just imagine, like I said, what a lot of fans have wanted is just some leadership and accountability. And that's not something that this organization has provided throughout this entire experience. And again, I'm not saying he gets up there and says, yeah, Deshaun Watson is ass. He sucks so bad and we're never doing that again. I definitely don't expect that out of him and really wouldn't want it, frankly. But at the same time, just to say something along the lines of like, yeah, this is a very disappointing season. This is not where we expected to be. We need to reevaluate. We need to see what we're going to do going forward. Even just a little bit of that to indicate, yeah, this is a lost season. This isn't really where we wanted to be. And this is what we're going to do to kind of correct it.
Right.
There was just no hope for the future with this press conference. And I will say Andrew Barry's been good at that previously, where you look forward to this press availability and you get some answers. It's easy to digest, easy to talk about, and it's hopeful. This one didn't give me that.
Yeah, and I think this organization is kind of in an interesting space because, there was a lot of apprehension and nervousness among the fans when this trade deadline was coming up. Are the Browns about to blow it up, or is it going to be a reboot?
Yeah.
Because clearly you could have went two different ways here, right? You could have said, we screwed up. The famous meme, where what's his name's on the phone? Hey, we screwed up, like time to blow it up. But that's not what they're doing. And when you only get rid of Smith and Amari Cooper, you're not blowing up what you've done, right? You're rebooting. And quite frankly, there was probably a 10% chance that Amari Cooper was coming back to this organization last year. We know he was disgruntled in the offseason. That's why he wanted a 2-year contract versus the one renegotiated contract he got. Smith probably would have came back, but the Browns looked at that and said, well, we got to find some money and start saving it. And we have a team that's clamoring and wants him, and we're going to get multiple draft picks, and we're going to, be able to get rid of some cap, So I think it was kind of beneficial to both, especially and fair to the player like Smith, who still is playing at a high level, right? And, probably wants to, compete for a playoff.
Sure,
I mean, he's not attached to the organization like Myles Garrett, right? He doesn't have that identity. He was like our Clowney 2.0, but just better, right? He was brought in to be across from Myles Garrett to take pressure off of him, and he was successful at that. Do I think the Browns can find another one similar to him? Absolutely, I think they can.
I think they may have it in house. Honestly, I think Alex Wright could be that player. I know
Yeah.
he's hurt right now. I've liked what I've seen out of Isaiah McGuire. You're getting production out of Okoronkwo. You've got some guys in house, but I agree with you. You're not getting rid of Nick Chubb. You're not getting rid of Denzel. You're not getting rid of
Right.
Miles Njoku. Like obviously that's a separate conversation. Like what the organization's looking to do, but I would say like the trades that they made, it didn't make me say, oh yeah, we're either going to start selling, we're shooting for a top 5 pick, or we're going to try to win some games. It was just kind of like, oh, I know we all saw it coming, but like it doesn't really do much. It doesn't really
Right.
indicate one way or another which direction this team's going. Didn't answer any questions is my point.
Right.
So a lot of nothing, in my opinion.
Yeah, it was a nothing burger today for sure.
Yeah, which was disappointing. But what's not disappointing is Teresa's Pizza. Look, I'm all in on pizza. Their recipes come from a strong Italian tradition passed down through their family. They have their fresh baked pizza made with their family recipe sauce, and it's topped with real Wisconsin cheese. It's grandma's homemade Italian dressing on the salad. So it's the taste to start a new tradition. That's our friends over at Teresa's Pizza. Also, why don't you tell our listeners about Western Reserve Distillers, by the way?
Yeah, guys, come in on any night of the week over at Western Reserve Distillers. We have the Here We Go Brownies whiskey. That sounds like a great Christmas gift to give to your family. We have the 20-year, the 8 and the 6-year. But Allie, you've got to enjoy the whiskey. It's amazing whiskey from our friends over there. But also Wednesdays is half off wings. $12 flights of Here We Go Brownies whiskey, and half off wine, by the way. So it's a great place, great food. Obviously, they're known for their whiskey, but they have rum, they have tequila, they have mezcal, they have all the different other wonderful bourbons and stuff that you love to drink. So if you like a vodka, they have that. But it's definitely worth that trip to Lakewood, just west of Cleveland here, to go in there and check out their distillery. Great place. And we are so happy to partner with them and do all the wonderful things that we do with our whiskey over there.
Yeah, most definitely. Go check them out. All right. You have anything else from today that you want to go over before we go through the NFL?
Well, hell yeah. Let's talk about those Cleveland Cavaliers. 8-0, baby, tied for the best start in franchise history. That's right. The best start in franchise history for the Cleveland Cavaliers. If they win, I believe they're playing the Pelicans on Friday.
They are.
Yeah.
Yes.
If they're playing the Pelicans, if they go 9-0, it'll be the best start in franchise history. Ali, this is a fun team to watch. This new head coach has these players positioned and playing very well. So the Cavs are off to a great start and tied for their best and maybe their best start in franchise history. I think the Cavs definitely have something here, and the recipe is working well, and they're knocking on 9-0 in the NBA.
Yeah, it's really cool. A lot of fun to watch. I'm all in. Let them know.
Hedges, also Hedges, got signed to a new 1-year deal with the Guardians today. So a new 1-year deal for him. So he will be coming back. Unfortunately, I don't know if you saw Fry had the surgery. He's going to be out, I think, 6 to 10 months based on the injury. So he was such a great, fun thing to watch in the playoffs. Like, basically, against the Tigers, what he did with that home run. But other than the Browns, sports is fun to watch in Cleveland right now.
Sports is fun.
So Allie, and I got my Broncos. I always say you can't have it all, right, Allie? Life doesn't give you everything. Sometimes you get a box of chocolates, and sometimes you get not a box of chocolates, right? So
sometimes, just a whole lot of.
Sometimes you get a Baltimore Raven win, and then you get an ugly game the following week. So, but is fortunate or unfortunate, we're very used to that as Browns fans.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just look forward to this bye week, having a nice, relaxing. I'm glad the political stuff is all done. I will tell you this, Allie, living in this state, I could not believe the amount of political ads that I saw on both sides, like just back and forth. It was insane.
Yeah.
And I was told that the Senate race in the state was the most ever spent. Crazy, like the amount for political. I've never seen anything like it. But Ohio, they spent a lot of political ads. I was like, man, that's crazy to me. It's just, but
Yeah.
it used to be a swing state, but we all know that dynamics changed over the years.
Yeah. Also, I want to give a shout out to our friends over at Hartville Marketplace and Flea Market. Guys, head down to Hartville. You can check out the indoor flea market, over 3 acres of indoor shopping, over 50 unique shops, or head outside to their very large outside flea market, 12 acres of a collector's paradise, over 1,000 vendors, open Mondays, Fridays, and Saturdays year round. So please be sure to go check out our friends over at Hartville Marketplace and Flea Market.
And with that, real quick, Ellie, they're starting their Winter Wonderfest. They do
Cool.
it every year. Have you ever gone and done that? Their big, huge
I have
winter.
not. No, I haven't.
So it's a big deal. It's several weeks down there, but it's like lights and family activities. But go order your tickets at the Hartville Marketplace. I have been told it is amazing. I'm looking forward to it this year, but it's called the Winter Wonderfest.
There you
Down in
go.
Hartville.
There you have it. All right, let's get into it. Last week, Dustin, we tied. So I am 6-0-3 on the season. You are 0-6-3. So let's get into it for this week. Let's
Was that a
start
tie?
with.
Did we tie? We tied?
Yeah, we tied. Yeah, we tied.
Okay, so I didn't lose. All right, we're changing
Nope.
the dynamic. At least I didn't lose this week. All right, here we go.
Yep. All right, starting tomorrow, Bengals at Ravens, Thursday night football.
Ravens.
Ravens. I agree. Giants at Panthers.
Giants. Give me the Giants.
I'm going to go with the Giants. I don't think the Panthers can string together 2 wins in a row. This one is overseas. This is the Munich game, I believe. Patriots, the Giants at Panthers, but Patriots at Bears.
Patriots. Give me the Patriots.
I'm going to take the Bears at home, but I'm not convinced by that. Niners at Bucks.
Man, after what I saw from the Bucks, I mean,
Yeah.
they actually put a game together.
Yeah.
That was crazy. Niners. Is McCaffrey back? I know there was some talk that he's.
I don't know if he's going to be playing on Sunday.
Give me the Niners. Actually, I think this could be. I think the Bucks have kind of leveled down here, and give me the Niners.
I think if Godwin and Evans were healthy, I'd probably take the Bucks, but I'm going to go with the Niners. I think it might be a close game. Broncos at Chiefs.
Chiefs.
Bills at Colts.
Bills.
Yeah. Steelers at Commanders.
Commanders.
Jeez. This is tough. So, yeah, I'm going to go with you. Give me the Commanders. Vikings at Jags.
Vikings.
Yeah, I think so. Falcons at Saints.
Falcons.
Yep, I agree. Titans at Chargers.
Chargers.
I'm going to go with the Chargers here also. I hate to just continue agreeing with you, but I mean, a lot of these games, I just can't. Some of these seem obvious to me, but
it's not as tough as it used.
No, last week was hard. Jets at Cardinals.
This can be my upset pick of the week, so I can change it. I'm going to go with the Jets here.
All right. I'm going to stick with the Cards. You're going to go Jets. I could see it happening, though. Eagles at Cowboys.
Eagles. Dak's
Eagles.
out.
Dak's out. Lions at Texans.
Ooh, this will be a good game.
This could be a good game. Sunday Night Football.
They don't have Diggs, right? Am I correct?
No Diggs. He's out. Out for the season.
Give me the Lions.
So I think that Lions are due for a loss here.
Or are
the Texans, or are they? I don't know how you stop this Lions offense right now, but Texans, they're rolling out with the new unis. The helmets are the all reds, I think. I am. All of that said, I'm gonna stick with the Lions. Dolphins at Rams.
And after all that, when you cut off, Mr. David earlier, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you know what? I would do it again. Dolphins at Rams.
Rams. Maybe the Rams.
Yeah, you're probably right. I don't know. This one's. I think both teams are
Kind of.
just,
Yeah.
like.
Agree.
Eh.
But
I'm gonna go with the Dolphins. Give me the Dolphins in this
Okay.
game, and you're gonna go with the Rams. I don't love it, but I'm gonna take it. Yeah, there you go. There you have it. We've got three differences here. I'm
Patriots,
taking the
Jets,
Bears.
and-
You're taking the Patriots. I'm taking the Cardinals. You're taking the Jets. I'm taking the Dolphins. You're taking the Rams. So we'll see.
And I get you know what happens the next 2 weeks? 2 weeks of me not losing, or tying, or so
Maybe I'll just text you my picks. We'll see.
Oh, that's fair. Hey, we could do that. That would be, and then I come back and I'm like 3-6-3. No, I'm just kidding.
You never know. All right, Dustin. Any closing thoughts as we wrap up on a beautiful Wednesday evening?
Everybody, let's just give a beautiful shout out to David and Allie on their wedding next weekend. Congratulations to them.
Thank you.
It's been fun to watch their relationship grow. It's been amazing.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
all that has been their relationship, and watching that, and their sarcasm toward each other, and the way they, I mean, they're meant to be. Let's just put it that way. Yeah, I mean, that's the best way to describe it. They basically feed off each other in a very positive light. So, Allie, I just would love to give you a great congratulations along with our audience
Thank
tonight on your wedding next Saturday.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Guys, I don't know if you caught it at the top, but I'm taking 2 weeks off. So join
Yes.
Dustin for the next couple of shows here. He's going to have some
Special
guests on.
guest.
I'm
Special guest.
I'm taking a little break, but I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Stay safe, stay healthy, and as always, Browns fans, go Browns.
Go Browns.